So today I'll be doing an interpretive reading project, and for the project I have chosen a book called Interpretive People by the author Ashok Ferre. Now Ashok Ferre is one of the best English authors we have here in Sri Lanka. He has a couple of novels, The Wijeratne, The Professional, and a bit more titles. I have read most of his work, but for me, the best writing Ashok Ferre has done is not in the novels, it's in the short stories. Now, Interpretive People is a collection of short stories that kind of reflect upon the certain degree the society that we in Colombo live in. And it is a book that is meant to laugh at ourselves. And if you know Ashok Ferre, you would know it's hard to find a particular piece of work that can be read out to a distinguished audience. However, I found one single story which I believe, read out to a distinguished audience. So this is a short story that is happening within Colombo. And I would like to introduce you to the characters, but I believe the best way, since it's a short story, is just to simply read it out and hope that you will also, I can project the story onto you. The title of the short story is The Only Shortcoming. The Only Shortcoming. Mrs. Bodagoda had a certain flair for the dramatic. No doubt, you all know why you are here today, she said, looking around those assembled. Of course, nobody knew. And nobody knew that fact better than Mrs. B. But it was the way she liked things done. Rani, she said. Her husband looked at her in amazement. Rani? He counted mildly. Yes, Rani, you know, your daughter, she added in case her husband needed further elucidation. For heaven's sake, wake up, George. Mrs. B did not suffer fools gladly. She suffered her husband not at all. But she could not complain. After all, he had provided her with a gracious house and all that went with it. If you were unkind, you would have said that it was in an up-and-coming area of Colombo. But once inside those gates, you felt you had definitely arrived. There were tennis courts, a swimming pool, and what are called running servants. Then again, if you were a member of the old guard, you would have muttered darkly that Mrs. B was not quite. But she herself was the first to admit how proud she was of her humble origins. It's not what you are in life, but what you make of it, she was fond of saying. And you had to admit, she had made plenty of hers. In fact, there was only one shortcoming which marred this idyllic existence. And that was Rani. As you know, Mrs. B was saying, it's about time my daughter got married. She is quite old enough. In fact, almost too old. One more year and she'll begin to get difficult. She knew because she had been a notorious difficult case in her day. I intend to set about this task, she continued, with the help of you, my closest friends. There were 4 of them, a bishop, 2 cabinet ministers, and my mother. My mother was the only woman there, and that because she was safe. Being just the right age. If she had been any older, she might have thrown a spanner in the works for the sheer hell of it. The women of Colombo were good with spanners. And if she had been any younger, she might have been tempted to take Rani's place. Have you anybody in mind, Mrs. B? The bishop asked in the most ponderous confessional manner. Mrs. B restrained with difficulty the urge to tell him not to be a silly old fool, because she would hardly have called him here otherwise. Instead, She glittered graciously and proceeded with her narrative. There is only one young man in this town fit to marry my daughter. All faces looked up expectantly. Quentin. The name fell like a skeleton in a tomb. The cabinet ministers sat up as if they were whipped the cabinet ministers sat up as they had suddenly received 3-line whip across their backsides. And the bishop clutched the crucifix at his chest. You don't mean? Yes, I do. Mrs. B wanted to dispel any doubts. Quentin was Colombo's most eligible bachelor, being the only son of a family that owned vast rubber estates and all the industry that went with them. He had been the best catch for quite a few seasons now. I have broached the subject with Quentin's mother, Mrs. B was saying. And though she is not too, well, let us say she is not violently opposed to the idea, with her approval, I have decided to give a dinner. The most conscientious objector to all this was Quentin himself. It was not that he minded Rani in particular, he was, quite simply, a misogynist set in his die-hard bachelor's way and unwilling to change. He had heard enough talk of suitable wives lately. He was having none of it. At that moment, the party in the study was interrupted by a click-click sound, so familiar to the Badagoda household. The door opened and the only shortcoming popped her head in. Hello, she said. Other young dads might have had their toy dogs or their favorite sonnets to carry around with them. Rani had her castanets. She played them with a certain zest as she played them all day, every day, for she was a great believer in practice. And if visitors to the house found this little hard to appreciate, she merely attributed to their outrageous lack of musicality. Ah, Rani dear, come and meet this nice auntie and these uncles, Mrs. B said. They are about to decide your fate, she might have added, but didn't. For she was great, believer in not spoiling her children. Having made her greetings, Rani clicked her way down the corridor, for practice makes perfect. And the little party in the study began its council of war in earnest. Never had there been a finer general to guide them. The campaign was mapped out to the last detail. It was going to be a party to end all parties. The next day, the invitations went out. After much coaxing, Quentin was persuaded to come. But he would be there on one condition, he said, that Rani wasn't. Mrs. B called another urgent council of war, and such was her power that the ministers came halfway through their cabinet meeting. The bishop came a little later though, after communion, having dispensed with God first. What shall we do? Asked my mother. But a good general is equal to every occasion. If Quentin doesn't want it, Rani won't be there, Mrs. B said quietly. At least not in person. Everyone wondered how this could be possible, but no one dared ask. But in that case, who is sat next to him? The bishop queried mindfully. He might have been asking forgiveness from God. Mrs. B was silent for a moment, weighing the pros and cons. A good general has to be lightning quick, and his decisions has to be brilliant. She turned to my mother. You will, she said. The kitchens were a flurry of activity when the first guests began to arrive. Rani could be seen drifting in and out of the dining room in a floating chevron number. What she thought about all this was really anybody's guess, but there was an otherworldly look on her face which stopped anyone from asking. Was she the lamb being led to the slaughter, or was she the spider being hospitable to the fly? She probably didn't know herself. Mrs. B glittered regally at the top of the staircase in lace and black pearls. Quentin's parents arrived with a reluctant Quentin in tow. He was introduced to my mother, and when dinner was announced, he accompanied her in. He was not a great conversationalist at the best of times, our Quentin, but that day he seems even more somber than usual. Something was weighing heavily on his mind. My mother did her best. She chatted away brightly about this and that and the other. Quentin remained silent about this and that, his mind dwelling, probably, on the other. Suddenly there was a hush. Two servants in white coats pattered in bearing a peace de resistance, followed rather coyly by Rani. The crinoline lady, announced Mrs. B, as the pudding was placed on the table amid the oohs and ahs of the dinners. It was made by my daughter. Rani was reluctant to accept credit for something the cook had taken days to prepare, but everyone loved a reticent genius and the guest became even more appreciative. Even Quentin admitted that the pudding was superb. The fact that Rani had made it was neither here or there, but he was too proud to say so. Soon afterward, the party came to an end as the guests drifted away in twos and threes. Mrs. B bid goodbye to Quentin and his family. She retired to bed exhausted by the victory and slept and sleep of a four-star general. Well, wasn't that a lovely party? Exclaimed Quentin's mother on the way home. The driver understood English, so the real postmortem would have to wait until they were back at the house. But Quentin's mother was impatient. She wanted to probe her son's mind, like the weather, who gently probes his patient's stomach to divine some hidden inner melody. Quentin started fixedly into the middle distance, or more accurately into the back of the driver's neck. All those lovely lights and the band, his mother was saying. The rubber band, murmured Quentin. What was that? His mother asked sharply. But Quentin merely giggled. There was a glazed look about his eyes and his spectacles flashed sincerely in the dark. Driver or no driver, Quentin's mother decided to come right out. Well, Quentin, wasn't there anyone there, any particular girl who caught your fancy? She closed her eyes as she visioned her future daughter-in-law swam into the view with the sound of wild castanets. Yes, Quentin murmured, pushing his glasses back up his nose. Quentin's mother held her breath. I rather like the girl sitting next to me.